Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Katie Patrick, joined by the David Afirazo.
Yes.
Over on his side.
Good day.
Good day to you.
Yes.
Gute Nacht. Guten Tag.
What?
Gut. All right.
She's speaking in tongues already.
Yes.
We just started the episode.
Yeah. All right. It's Thursday, and it means the weekend. It's coming pretty quick.
All right. That's right. And it's once again that special time to check in. We're going to Florida, I think. Yes, Mr. Alex Newman. We're going to find out what story he is going to share with us this week. It's always good. Hey, Alex.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here. And so, crazy story out of Colorado, out of a charter school. They kicked a 12-year-old boy out of his class and persecuted him for having a Gadsden flag patch on his backpack. They actually claimed falsely that it was associated with racism. And so right away, this sparked a national scandal, went totally viral on Twitter, ended up getting picked up by a lot of major media outlets and sparked a major scandal. There was actually some video of the interaction of the mother and the child with some of the school administrators. I want to show you a little clip of that.
They do not want the flag. The reason we do not want the flag displayed is due to its origins with slavery and slave trade.
The Gadsden flag.
The don't tread on me.
Okay.
The bag can't go back if it's got the patch on it because we can't have that in and around other kids.
I think it's like one-sided, because you allow some patches but not other patches.
Kids have patches.
Yeah, and I mean we teach him to always stick up for your beliefs, and I mean you're going over the revolution for 7th grade. I mean the founding fathers stood up for what they believed in against unjust laws. This is unjust.
Yep, unjust indeed. Actually, since we originally wrote this story, the school board had an emergency meeting, their board of directors, and they actually put out a statement siding with young Jaden there. It says, from Vanguard's founding, we have proudly supported our Constitution and Bill of Rights and the ordered liberty that all Americans have enjoyed for almost 250 years. The Vanguard School recognizes the historical significance of the Gadsden flag and its place in history. This incident is an occasion for us to reaffirm our deep commitment to a classical education in support of these American principles. At this time, the Vanguard School Board and the district have informed the student's family that he may attend school with the Gadsden flag patch visible on his backpack. So that was really encouraging that they backed down so quickly, but it was only because this boy stood up, and it was only because it caused a scandal. Originally, the school officials told this boy and his mom that the flag was disruptive of the classroom environment because of its alleged association with slavery. Obviously, the flag has no association with slavery. It was among the most recognizable and popular patriot flags during our war for independence, and it remains very popular with conservatives, libertarians, constitutionalists, and just people in general who don't believe in tyranny. When the family asked for details, the school administrators pointed to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which, of course, even that didn't actually say the flag was racist. They actually said in their report that the flag originated in the Revolutionary War in a non-racial context. Pretty amazing. So I actually reached out to the executive director of Citizens for Free Speech, Kimberly Crowther Miller, very nice lady. I serve on the advisory board for the group. It's a great organization. And she said, 3 cheers for the mother and son for defending free speech, understanding their First Amendment rights, and the history of the Gadsden flag enabled them to confidently challenge the district policy that presumably is neither equitable nor equal. And she also said this situation highlights the cowardice of those who are just enforcing policy without critical analysis on their own, of their own. We all bear responsibility to stand up for what is just and right. Simply going along with and appealing to illogical rules and policies handed down from bureaucratic structures is ignorant and weak. Even the governor ended up siding with the student here. He put out a statement on Twitter saying the Gadsden flag is a proud symbol of the American Revolution and an iconic warning to Britain or any other government not to violate violate the liberties of Americans. And yet the school operations director, a guy called Jeff Yoakum, when he was confronted about the fact that this wasn't racist, he pointed to this fringe left-wing blog that quoted a fringe left-wing graphic design scholar. And even that graphic design scholar didn't say it was racist. He said that some may now see it as racist because it was flown alongside Trump 2020 flags, which of course is preposterous. So this charter school, the Vanguard school that discriminated against this student, they cited their district policy against racism and pro-drugs messages. Obviously, neither of those apply here. We reached out to the school for comment. They never did get back to us, at least not yet. And the guy who broke the story, the president of the Libertas Institute in Utah, Connor Boyack, he's the guy who wrote the Tuttle Twins, a great series there. He put this out on X, used to be Twitter, and just went super duper viral. But folks, even though they did back down in this case, that was only because families stood up. And the reality is government indoctrination camps posing as educational institutions are becoming increasingly aggressive in their efforts to enforce compliance with their schemes and their progressive dogma. You've got children all across the nation who are in the crosshairs of these totalitarians. And unfortunately, lobbying school boards or creating more charter schools is not going to fix this problem. The only real option is to just have a mass exit from the system. And I try to warn people, charter schools are still government schools. So folks, don't get sucked into this idea that if we just have more charter schools, everything's going to be okay. That's obviously not the case. Thanks, guys.
It's all about the love of money and man playing God. Of course, in the latest American Medical Association Journal of Ethics, authors are not only suggesting uterus transplants to help transgender women, aka men, get pregnant, but they also say taxpayers should help fund the procedures, which can cost up to $300,000. No, thank you. In plain language, the discussion is now about doing uterus transplants so biological men can try to have a baby. So be honest, who saw this coming? I'm David Fiorazzo, and this is Christ and Culture. Do you think they're suggesting these cross-sex procedures to save lives and help people, or are they affirming people's delusions to rake in the big bucks? Also, just because we have the modern technology to do something, does that mean we should do it? When man tries to replace God, it will not end well. My suggestion, let's make Frankenstein science fiction again. The American Medical Association featured an ethical analysis of uterus transplants for males in its journal this summer, and detailed arguments behind such experiments. I mean, procedures. But worse is the idea that we should help pay for these procedures. Taxpayer dollars, it's for science, it's progress. After all, they have medical in their name. Responding to the news, Dr. Martin Macari, professor at Johns Hopkins University, or Johns Hopkins Schools of Medicine, said this: rather than funding objective medical studies on transgender medicine, the AMA has chosen activist positions on this delicate topic. Why don't they fund a study on the 10-year regret rate of children who undergo transitioning surgery? What is the suicide rate among those who undergo aggressive hormone or surgical treatment versus long-term talk therapy? The doctor also pointed out the irony that the AMA is promoting uterus transplants for men so a baby could possibly be born, while other so-called treatments for transgender children and minors are making them permanently infertile. Whatever happened to do no harm? This seems like partisan activism to me as well. They also discussed reducing the cost of dangerous surgeries in the AMA June issue called Patient-Centered Transgender Surgical Care. But my question is, why reduce the cost if the government can make the people pay for it? Another question is, will insurance companies cover these procedures, and to what extent? There is no good, moral, ethical, or medical reason why American citizens should be forced to pay for these operations. None. Medical, health, or otherwise. And yet, the paper says taxpayers should also fund cosmetic surgeries so men can look or feel more like women. This is where we are today, friends. This is not about affirming. It's not just about supporting them or about live and let live. This is more deception and programming of a nation on transgender ideology. The philosophy that justifies mutilating human bodies is a direct assault on the truth that every human being is created in the image of God. I've said that before. The Bible warns us not to be deceived or taken captive by worldly philosophies. Colossians 2, verse 8. But we're talking about the medical profession here. Science, right? They're supposed to be objective. There are no good, or that I've seen, long-term studies on the effects of injecting hormones into children. Most cases of sex change regret, where people have spoken out to warn others, have been suppressed and censored by the one-party, big tech media conglomerate. The left won't fund those studies or allow these kinds of tragic stories to be told. Dr. Makari also said it's hard to do further research because activists have already run a lot of the medical professionals out of town for wanting to be objective. He's also disgusted, like most of us are, that the minors can walk into a Planned Parenthood and walk out with a bottle of hormones, just like that. I don't think the abortion giant would support experimental surgery to enable someone to have a baby. They're about eliminating life. But the first uterus transplant was actually done in 2014 in Sweden. Now, on the record, there have been about 100 uterus transplant surgeries performed worldwide, and the process involves multiple surgeries and follow-up appointments. It can take, on average, over, a year and a half, about 18 months. Just this year, doctors at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB, became one of the first in the U.S. to offer the uterus transplant procedure to hysterectomy patients, as well as rare cases in which a woman was born without a womb. Its uterus transplant program is one of only 4 in the country that performs the new operation and is the first to do it outside of a clinical trial. Now, one example: a mother had been diagnosed with a rare condition that caused her to be born without a uterus, and they did the procedure. And in May of this year, a baby boy became the first to be born because of UAB's program. Now, the debate will continue, and the public must be convinced and programmed a bit more to be on board with this so-called progress to help the transgender community. But I don't think the idea of taxpayers helping fund it will ever gain popularity. But as we know, some will find ways to make money from the medical health crisis regardless. For example, Chris Rufo at City Journal just wrote about the disturbing story of one doctor that has been doing non-binary genital surgeries since 2015. Business is booming for Dr. Curtis Crane, who employs 5 doctors and does more than 1,000 procedures a year in San Francisco, California, and in Austin, Texas clinics. Demand is increasing. Safety and sanity are not. Rufo rightly states that those who suffer from serious emotional or mental health issues should not be subjected to these experiments. Crane justifies them by appealing to equality and acceptance and rejects the laws of nature and nature's God. But there is a glimmer of hope and a bit of positive news. Rufo said this: the debate about transgender medicine is shifting. Legislators in 20 states have recently passed bills to restrict transgender medical interventions such as puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and genital surgeries for minors. And the tide of public opinion appears to be moving against, quote, gender-affirming care. a euphemism for child sex change procedures not supported by the evidence, and that often cause devastating consequences. Preventing such procedures for patients under age 18 has to be the baseline. So once again, I can sum up this battle in 3 words: God or man. This is a worldview war. God bless you, and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on pristine quality bedding, towels, slippers, signature pillows, and much more when you use the code EDUCATED. That's EDUCATED. Educated. Support this show and a great American company.
Hello, America. Welcome to One Nation. I'm your host, Dr. Jake Jacobs. Well, here we go again. We've been talking about the Biden crime syndicate for many years now. There's nothing new under the sun when it comes to that criminal. You know, a dear friend of mine, a dear friend of the people in the state of Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson, one of the great senators in the United States of America, he's been investigating the corruption within the Biden family, and there's a preponderance of evidence of guilt that goes all the way through Ukraine, Russia, Romania, and China. Even the House Oversight Committee has evidence that up to $20 million in payments from foreign partners of the Biden family has been going on with 20 different shell companies. He's been caught red-handed and guilty as all get out. Now, just recently, Devin Archer, a business partner of Hunter Biden, exposed the lies of Joe Biden about not talking to Hunter's business partners. Now, by the way, it isn't just Democrats who are guilty of all this collusion stuff with foreign countries and making money based upon their political power. I mean, there are a number of Republicans who have done the same thing, but the point is the man in power right now has been corrupt for many, many years. Now, just a little while back, in fact, on the day that I am not a crook, Richard Nixon resigned on August 9th. He did that in 1974. But on August 9th, of 2023, Peter Doocy of Fox News was down in New Mexico. And he asked President Biden this question. Listen to what he asked and listen to the response.
A first of its kind reaction to that testimony. Nobody has asked President Biden yet about these allegations from a former Hunter Biden business associate that Hunter would call his dad, then the vice president, and put him on speakerphone to chat with his business associates. So at the conclusion of this event, I had a chance, at the president's invitation, he waved his son over to ask him. There's this testimony now where one of your son's former business associates is claiming that you were on speakerphone a lot with them, talking business. Is that what?
I never talk business with anybody. And I know you'd have a lousy question.
Well, why is that a lousy question?
Because it's not true.
Thank you, Mr. President. And so he wanted to talk about the transition to a green economy. He did not want to talk about that, but it does now conflict with the sworn testimony of Devin Archer. Devin Archer went under oath to talk about these speakerphone calls. Some of the Democrats that came out of that room where they were listening in private said that the president was just talking about the weather, but he's saying that they didn't talk at all.
Now, this is something else, people. Joe Biden has been caught with lie upon lie upon lie when it comes to the collusion with his son Hunter, his brother Jim, and other Biden family members. Now, seriously, going back to when he was vice president with Ukraine, Romania, China, Russia, and latest news is possibly Latvia, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So 4 years ago, the very same Peter Doocy asked the very same question to the very same old Joe Biden. Listen to what he had to say 4 years ago.
Earlier today, he did talk to the media about these unfounded claims about him and his son. There is no evidence to these claims, and he had a lot to say about it. Take a listen.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
And so how do you
Let's
know?
talk about, here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum. And he's using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me. Everybody looked at this, and everybody's looked at it and said there's nothing there. Ask the right question.
Boy, did Peter Doocy hit a raw nerve 4 years ago. And now more and more evidence, a preponderance of evidence is pointing the finger at the collusion, the corruption of Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, James Biden, and the Biden crime syndicate family. Guys, there is so much more to say, but for the rest of the story, watch the full episode of One Nation.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the FreedomProject Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and Heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
All right, friends, we've all heard the negative predictions of what artificial intelligence could bring. But here's the story of a woman who's receiving a new lease on life thanks to the technology. 48-year-old Ann Johnson hasn't said a word in 18 years. But thanks to some incredible technology and old home videos, her family and friends are once again hearing the words she has been longing to share.
For 18 years, Ann Johnson hasn't said one word until now.
Great to see you were dead.
When she was 30 years old, married with kids, Ann had a paralyzing stroke while playing volleyball, robbing her of an ability to communicate other than using a letterboard. Now, artificial intelligence has helped give Ann her voice back.
You are truly wonderful people.
And for the first time in a long time, she spoke with her husband, Bill.
I was thinking about running to the store.
What time will you be home?
It was an emotional moment to hear her voice again. That we used a clip from her wedding video to kind of restore her voice the way it sounded.
A team of doctors and researchers at the University of California, San Francisco and UC Berkeley discovered a way to use Ann's brain signals and translate them into words using artificial intelligence.
We have electrodes that sit on the surface of Ann's brain. When she tries to move her mouth as if she was saying a word or a sentence, we decode that activity into sounds and the avatar movements that correspond to the movements that she would have tried to make.
Metzger says it's the recent advances in AI that led them to the ability to synthesize speech with the avatar.
We decode Ann's brain signals using new AI algorithms, and they're essential to being able to do this work.
Fascinating. We'll talk about it in a moment. But of course, there is similar technology that is being developed by other companies. Elon Musk even owns a company called Neuralink, valued at just, $5 billion, whose purpose is to implant multiple chips into a person's brain, allowing them to then control a computer by simply thinking about it.
Jeez.
So
we're there, aren't we?
We're there. I feel like we are
this
there.
This is being implemented. It's being researched, and they're doing it. I mean, that is really remarkable. The problem is men and women, mankind does not know where to stop. Again, this word boundaries, we were talking about that on the Monday show. Boundaries. You're going to keep pushing to see how much technology you can implement and interfuse, if that's what they're doing with human beings, this AI, and it's fascinating. And the question I ask is, just because we have the modern technology and the capability of doing certain things, how much should you do, or should you do it at all?
Yep. Just because
it's an ethical question.
Should we? Yeah. The can and the should don't always align.
Yeah. Fascinating though, when he can hear her voice from old videos, and they got her voice in the AI, but to see that thing coming out of her brain, oh Lord. I mean, yeah, that's where man kind of takes over and wants to be God, right? And so you're going to use this technology to do things that are not good. I'm not a prophet, but it's happening already.
So that's something you have to think about yourself. Yeah. That's what we brought you today.
The ethics of all
The
this.
ethics lesson. Can and should. You decide. All right, well, it's going to wrap up Educated for this week. We'll give you time to think about things then, Well, don't forget, though, you can catch Educated on the go by simply subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. And if you're in the mood for it, why not, leave us just, maybe a 5-star review for our quality banter, if I do say so myself.
Well, for Katie and myself, thanks for watching, listening, sharing, and supporting the show. Until next week, stay educated, America.